Ahoy Rovers! Well, in this video we're moving on with ring frames. Now if you want to know what happened in the last video, well, I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to go back and look for yourself. My name's Alan Mulholland, and this is the story of how I built the Wave Rover 650. 3 years ago, I refitted a 40-year-old Contessa 26 and took her on an amazing 7,800 nautical mile ocean voyage. We crossed the Atlantic twice, but a knockdown on the second crossing and COVID-19 put an end to my solo circumnavigation. So now, I'm building a new boat, smaller, lighter, but more suited for a solo circumnavigation. The Wave Rover 650. Well, in this video, I'll be putting in a ring frame. It's not that much different than a regular bulkhead. Now, I also want to put in a support for the skeg, and if those inspection hatches arrive in the mail and I can get some measurements from them, I'll start in on the supports in the crash bulkhead. Anyway, Rovers, a lot to do. Time to crack on. Okay, so I have a little extra time right now, so I'm going to just make a template for the ring frame that goes between these two bulkheads. And you've seen me do this probably a few times, but it's just something we have to do. So I've got a short piece from my scrap pile. I have it secured here on the bottom. This piece will work up to the chine. I just need to take a bit off the bottom. See how that looks. That looks pretty good. Okay, so that's the second piece, and we need a piece now that'll come up to this line. This is the height of our counter here for the galley or the nav table, and let's just see. We'll make a line. This will get us close and we can adjust as needed. Okay, that is looking really good, nice and tight. Okay, so now we'll just get our glue gun going and start gluing these guys up. Okay, that looks good. Everything's held in place. Now we do need to put some kind of support across here just to keep everything honest. Okay, so that is the, that's the difficult part of making it, and it's not that difficult. Okay, so I have to now mark this line right here, which is the top of the counter. And I'll mark it on the other side just to... And I need to mark where it terminates. May not have heard that. What I was saying is I need to mark where it terminates on the floor here and also where it terminates on the bulkhead. Anyway, that job's done. Now we can go lay that out on plywood. So it's always a little game trying to optimize our plywood. So I've already laid this one out. This was the starboard side, and now I'm going to lay out the port side trying to preserve as much plywood for later in the project as I can, but at the same time I've got to give myself just a little extra room to level everything off. Okay, I've got all my marks down, and I should have a usable piece of ply here and maybe a somewhat usable piece of plywood here. Alright, time to crack on with the next step. Now, I always just turn this around here. So whenever you're cutting cross grain, it's best to make a little cut, score a line so that it doesn't rip the fibers. So you can see all that, all the ripping is on the waist side of the line. Okay, so we have basically our starboard bulkhead.
Can you keep it down a little?
Alright, so now this one needs to be test fitted, and then I can reduce it down to the exact width that I need. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but I'm using this laser to mark the level on this bulkhead. Actually, this is a ring frame, but also to catch the level on the other bulkheads. It's just such a handy tool, this laser. I made the outrageous comment many episodes ago that you don't need to get one of these things. You know, you can borrow or rent one for the 1 or 2 times you might use it. But the truth is, I've been using this laser level. I've been finding so many uses for it. It's just such a handy tool. I don't think I would recommend to anybody not to go and buy at least an inexpensive version of one of these laser levels. They're just, it speeds things up so much. Okay, time to do a little bit of tack welding here. Try not to get in the way of the camera. Let me see, how can I do this? It's really just this easy. You only need to put little tabs in, and we'll be coming back tomorrow with the proper fillets. This is just to hold it in position. So just a little word on my router surface here. I made this over 30 years ago as just as I became a journeyman, and it was to take with me on my first sailboat. And it's really just a couple of pieces of plywood with a Formica top, and then I just use regular hardware that you can get in a hardware store to make a clamp to hold it in place. And it's just been so handy. I've kept it around that long. So I'm in the starboard quarter right here, and it's going to be a void space, but I need to put a support across more or less where my hand is hovering. And in order to do that, I'm going to, I've put a lot of thought into it. How am I going to accomplish this? So I'm just going to put a number of cleats up, and I'll get cleats on the forward piece, the longitudinal, and the transom. But I won't be able to get a cleat on the hull side because the hull is only 3/8 of an inch thick, and I really can't put a fastener into that. And besides, I don't think it's necessary, because once the shelf is in, once this piece of plywood is in, then it'll get a fillet all the way around, and then it'll get fiberglass on top of that. So structurally, just that alone would do the job. I just need to support that piece of plywood for that period. Now, this is the void space, and I'll be putting a little inspection hatch right about where my hand is, and I'll be putting some stiffeners on the underside of that piece of plywood, so that this really becomes then almost like a crash bulkhead in itself. So anyway, time to crack on with getting these little cleats attached. So I've already struck a level line all the way around. You might be able to see that. And I have it here. Okay, just center that. Kind of hard to see, but that looks good. And then just put some sort of index line on it, so when it comes time to glue it up, you don't have to guess. Okay, now I need to drill some holes. So I'll just figure this out first. I'll put a screw in the center, and then another one over here. I'll split that difference, put another one over here, and split that difference. Just put a little piece of wood on the ply, because the plywood, this is a hardwood plywood, it tends to really rip out. Fairly nice job. Now on the outside, I'm just going to countersink. I've got a countersink bit right here, and I'll just countersink these holes so that the screws don't stick out too much. Now it's a matter of holding this in position. Okay, looks pretty good. Make sure you pick screws that are the right size. These are 3/4 inch number 8s. You don't really need to tighten these. This is just a dry fit. So the reason we do a dry fit is because when I take it down and put glue on it, the screw holes will find their centers and put it right where I need it. Okay, so just do that all the way around. Like I said, this one on the transom, because the transom is 3/4 of an inch thick, I'll be screwing through the cleat into the transom. But the one on the forward bulkhead here will just be screwed on just like I did this one. Okay, we've got the glue on here. It's Type-On 3, which is a waterproof glue. It's on pretty thickly, so I get a good squeeze out. So this is where lining up that mark comes in handy. And then the screw just guides it to our hole. Okay, great squeeze out all along. We just leave it right there. One more to go. So this one's a bit difficult because I have to be in two places at once. I have to be inside the quarter here to hold it, and I have to be in the bunk area to drive the screw. But as luck would have it, I put it at a depth that I can hold it and lean in. There we go. Okay, now just line up. Okay, we have good glue squeeze out except right here. There we go. Okay, and I'll leave this one. Yep, there we go. So we have nice glue squeeze out all the way around, but now I have to clean up all that squeeze out. Otherwise the next glue, the plywood, when I glue it down, won't stick to the wood. Okay, so it's all cleaned up, and I've done the same to the other quarter. I don't want to proceed any further with the plywood until I get the inspection hatches, just to make sure I've got the sizes right. Anyway, time to crack on with the next project. I'm in the process of setting up the crash bulkhead in the forepeak right now. So this is a bit tricky because this bulkhead has a curve in it, so I'm going to try to straighten it as I go. So this is just a piece of scrap pine that I have. I think it'll be just perfect though. So I'm going to just apply a little bit of pressure here. Well, that straightened it up quite a bit. Not 100%. Let's try that again. Well, the clamps have straightened it up quite a bit. Not 100%, but probably 90–95%. And that's good enough because, again, there will be a piece of plywood, like a shelf, that'll go right across this. I have to figure out a way to put a support up in the stem, and then there'll be fillets all the way around in fiberglass. So let's just tighten this up and see what happens. Okay. Well, let's see what happens when I take the clamps off. Nothing. Good. So we straightened the bulkhead. I don't know if you heard me say that, but we straightened the bulkhead, and I have the cleat that'll perform the duty of of this supporting this shelf for the crash bulkhead. And it's not just a shelf. Also, there'll be an inspection port here so I can check the bottom. And also, it's going to have some stiffeners going across. I won't be able to do that until I get those inspection ports that I spoke of for the quarter. Anyway, time to put a little bit of glue on this and finish it off. Well, the tacks on the ring frame are now hard enough that I can continue on with the next step, which is to wet out the surface where the fillet will go. Well, using my tried and true freezer bag technique, I lay in a thickened layer of epoxy to form a fillet. Well, next step is to tool the fillet into a nice shape. And then fair the fillet using some methyl hydrate. Well, the finished fillet is now nice and smooth and ready to apply a layer of glass. So step one on the glassing process is to wet out the surface with a thin layer of epoxy before applying the glass. So here Mrs. Rover is thoroughly wetting out the fiberglass tabbing before handing it over to me to apply. I'd like to take a moment to welcome on board our two newest benefactors, Jean-Claude Noel and Paulo Piera. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now, these donations truly are much appreciated. Well, Rovers, that was a pretty good episode, I thought. I got a lot of little things accomplished, plus the big thing of the bulkheads, and a big thank you to Mrs. Rover for all of her help in glassing those. Everything always goes a little bit better when Mrs. Rover is here. I'm still waiting on those inspection hatches, so I'm going to change gears in the next video and finish off the longitudinals. There's a few steps involved in that, but that should finish them off, and then I should have those inspection hatches and be able to get on with it. Anyway, Rovers, until next time, thanks for watching. Well, I'd like to welcome on board our newest patron, Nigel Gumley. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and Benefactors Bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more. Brilliant.